Welcome to the Lawson and Gift podcast. Make sure to hit that like button, share the videos, and subscribe. We got a big game this week. Houston is at Baltimore. Houston's getting 4. I believe we're both rolling with Houston in this game, but we'll get into some particulars here about this game. I just want to bring up who these teams have beaten and some of the things to watch out for. We know the Ravens have beaten the Patriots and Seahawks. I give credit to them for that. But also, on the same hand, they had some eyebrow-raising games, Lawson. We go back in time in the season, the Cardinals game. I felt like that was a game where the Ravens probably should have took care of it a lot easier than they did. That Bengals matchup, the first one, I felt like, the Ravens should have handled that a lot easier than they did. And then that Browns loss too. So I think the Ravens, they have their deficiencies, and we've seen it in those games. The Texans, they were able to take out the Chiefs, something the Ravens were not able to do this year. I think you got to give the Texans the edge as far as who they've beaten and how strong of a game it was.
I think you have to give the Texans the edge because I'm going to throw out just everything we're thinking about this game. I know everyone's excited about Deshaun Watson, Lamar Jackson. Everyone's excited about that matchup, and I understand that. But Houston has one major weak spot, and that's their secondary. Teams throw on them for fun. But one thing you have to remember about this Houston Texans pass defense is, yes, they're bad, but the way to really expose them, the way to really put up lopsided numbers against this Texans secondary is you have to push it deep. You have to test them deep, over 35 yards, over 50 yards. You really have to work it vertically. And when I look at this Ravens passing game with Lamar Jackson, I love a lot of it. I love the play action. I love him throwing on the run. But like you mentioned in our previous podcast, is Hollywood Brown even playing? And Mark Andrews is a great player, a great specimen, great athletically, but is he going to be the lone deep target alone that scares the Texans defense? I'm not sure. And the one and only thing the Texans defense can do is stop the run. Let's not mince words. The Ravens are a run-first offense. They are not comfortable throwing the football by any means. When they had to throw the football against the Cleveland Browns, you saw what happened. Lamar Jackson standing in the pocket, missing Mark Andrews by 9 yards. Mark Andrews going to the sideline and a heap of frustration due to the inaccuracy. Texans will stop the run. Texans will win the game unless Lamar Jackson proves me wrong. And I'm not even a Lamar Jackson hater. I just don't know why I need to get on my knee and worship him as the next Joe Montana or Tom Brady. People are honestly ridiculous. And yes, the game that impressed me most was when they went on the road and they beat the Seattle Seahawks. But come on, people. If this Seattle Seahawks team scares you, or if you smell or cog the Seattle Seahawks team as a Super Bowl contender, you're delusional. I'll at least throw the Ravens in that mix due to the state of the AFC, but I just simply think the Texans are a better team and the Texans have a better quarterback.
Well, I think you hit it on the head with as far as who the Baltimore Ravens are and what they're going up against this week. Everything they do offensively is based off of the run. And that's why I really wasn't that impressed with that Patriot win. I wasn't really that impressed with that Seahawks win. No way that week in and week out you're going to be able to run the ball up the middle on teams with ease. It's not going to happen. Those particular weeks it did, but it's not something you can do week in and week out, especially with your quarterback. It's not gonna be that easy. And I know a lot of our fans like stats, and they'll use it to disprove us or try to. Well, here's a good stat: Texans are third in the league against the run. They not even allowing 90 yards per game. That's really damn good. And I believe you stop that run game of the Ravens, they're not going to be able to do much. We saw what happened in that Cleveland game. We mentioned that earlier. If Lamar Jackson, if he can't run the football, and if Ingram, you stop those two guys, I don't see much. And then you mentioned Hollywood Brown. He exited today with an ankle injury, doesn't look good. That takes away their deep threat.
And I saw Michael Pierce might be out. So if your defensive line is only relying on Brandon Williams to stop the run, I think there could be some creases for Carlos Hyde. And we know the Texans, normally their big weakness is the running game. I actually saw they're ranked like 10th or 12th. I do think that's an admiration, but I do think there can be some rush yards to give Deshaun Jackson a little, to give Deshaun Watson a little bit of balance.
And I think, I agree. I think there'll be a little bit of that. And I think you got to look at the fact that the Ravens really don't have a pass rush. Their front seven is a problem. And I think Watson is going to exploit that. I think he moves around a little bit. And I think, I would like it if Will Fuller was playing. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. But irregardless, I think the short passing game for the Texans is going to be on fire this game. Between 10 and 20 yards, I think Watson hits a lot of those.
Well, there's one way to stop Deshaun Watson, and that's to hit him. If someone tells me there's going to be a furious, consistent pass rush from the Baltimore Ravens, and the Baltimore Ravens win this game. But I don't see Deshaun Watson getting hit more than 3, 4, 5 times this game. I don't think it's going to be an onslaught of 7 or 8 sacks like we've been accustomed to watching the Texans throughout the years, even with his mobility.
I agree. And, it's not about the Ravens secondary. If we're talking about just their secondary straight up and what they can do in coverage, that's good. They have a deep secondary. There's no doubt about that. But there's only so much that you can cover from that point. That's why I think Watson, between him scrambling and manipulating the pocket and also the short passing game, I think that's where we're going to see a lot. And I think that pretty much is going to be the difference. I think the Houston defense is what is going to show up, and I think the Ravens are going to have a long day. But I think another group of people we got to give credit to on the Texans is their front seven. I threw out the stat third in the league against the run, but you mentioned Zach Cunningham. You mentioned somebody like DJ Reader, Whitney Merciless. Those guys, I think they deserve a lot of credit. McKinney, too. Those guys, that's a reason why they're third in the league against the run. And I think that they're going to have a lot to say about this game.
Is there anything to even take from this coaching battle, or is it just a pure push? Although I am tempted to give Harbaugh the advantage in this. I have to say I've never been a big Harbaugh fan, never really bought into it, but I used to buy into Bill O'Brien, but he's proven he's a man that you really can't trust, especially in the big moments. I mean, you can't trust him on the road at Tennessee, let alone a big national game of the week that everyone is going to be watching. So I do give this to Harbaugh. I mean, but I could understand people thinking this is a straight up push.
Yeah, and I'll agree. I guess a little bit of edge goes to Harbaugh, but I guess the deficiencies of the Ravens, I don't really know if there's much that he can do about it coaching. I don't think that he's going to be able to coach to a point where he's going to find ways to get pressure. They just simply don't have a pass rusher. And then offensively, without Hollywood Brown, what are they going to be doing? Throwing it to Willie Snead? I mean, there's only so much that
they try to.
And it's not going to work. It's just not, and especially in this game. And I think we've made a lot of good points here, Matt. We're both rolling with Houston in this game.
And the upset, and it's always tough to go in an upset, especially on the road. But eventually, there's been too many good signs out of this Houston team to say they can't do it. And then secondly, man, I want to give the Ravens credit. I am saying they are dangerous, maybe to make a Super Bowl run. I mean, for whatever reason, people haven't figured out put 9 men in the box, hit Lamar Jackson every time they run it out of the shotgun. I haven't understood why teams haven't started doing that. But I think to win this game, the Ravens have to go full sacrificial lamb for Lamar Jackson. Let me explain this. I think he needs 12 to 15 carries for them to realistically win this. Do you want to do that with the AFC playoffs looming and the only team breathing down your neck is a very, very mediocre Pittsburgh team? Is that how you want to play the season? Is that how you want to play this on November 17th when you got the Patriots waiting for you in the playoffs and you realistically have a chance to knock them off due to your system of play? man, there's just too many things going against the Ravens in this game. But who knows? They might be stupid enough to kamikaze Lamar Jackson, and he might put up 100-plus yards rushing, and that's really the only way the Ravens win this game. If Lamar Jackson gets over 90 rushing yards, Ravens win this. I don't think he does. Texans win.
Yeah, I don't think the Texans are going to allow that to happen. But Lawson, yeah, I'm glad you brought up that, saying it that way, because we've been catching a lot of flack for not giving the Ravens credit. I think that we've given them a lot of credit, even Lamar Jackson, but first of all, the defense, we mentioned that, and the deficiencies in the front seven, that's just facts. That's, they don't have a lot of sacks. That's just how it is. They can't pressure the quarterback. I don't think that they're particularly that good against the run. Obviously, that Cleveland game, that showed that. But offensively, I would give them even more credit if they found other ways to win games. That, to me, is I just don't think it's in the long run this formula is going to work, running with your quarterback most of the time. I'm not saying that they're not good at it, but how long is it going to last? And that's really where I'm at with how they're playing. I can only give so much credit. It's like, yeah, it's impressive. It's good. How long is it going to last?
But and the whole goal is you have to keep them fresh for the playoffs. Because without Lamar Jackson going full bore, the Ravens are one and done.
And yes, and I guess I'll just add in something else too, because I want your opinion on it. Lamar Jackson, okay, we know he can run, and that's where everything branches off of from. But I just have to ask the question, when have we seen them win games throwing from the pocket, when the run game isn't working? And that's really – and that's where I'm at with it. And I just don't – in a game like this, Houston's good against the run. Well, I know that the Houston secondary is weak and, maybe not the greatest example if the Ravens do pull this off. But this is a game where Lamar Jackson has to be able to throw it through the air a little bit.
And I feel like we have to be the Debbie Downers about Lamar Jackson. And we were people who were optimistic about him when he was in that draft class. I know you had him ranked above 3 or 4 guys who everyone had rated above him. Most people had him rated at 5 or 6, which is ridiculous, obviously, especially with the hindsight glasses on. But it was ridiculous at the time. But, man, I feel like we have to be Debbie Downers because everyone's trying to make him into, this top 5, this perennial quarterback like Russell America Wilson. Man, I haven't seen enough.
I know, and we're going to see that highlight that he did against the Bengals. I mentioned it earlier this week. We're going to see that. We're going to be seeing that highlight and everybody associating him, in that Mahomes class, in that Deshaun Watson class. I'm not ready to put him there yet. He's got to be able to throw the football more consistently when the run game isn't on. Until that happens, I can't give Baltimore, we have given them credit. I don't know what they want us to do.
I just don't know how much credit. Giff, you make a good point. What credit should we give? Should we say they're going to beat the Patriots 45-12 in Foxborough? Lamar Jackson's going to throw for 480 yards against the best defensive coach ever in this league. What do you want us to say? Exactly. I don't even know if you guys can beat Kansas City.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't even know who's going to get in the AFC. Bills in the AFC wild card. They play them in the first round. Okay, I'd pick the Ravens over the Bills, but are we going to act like that's some sort of cakewalk, especially for the Ravens?
Oh, I definitely agree.
I mean, my goodness.
And I'm looking forward to their next matchup with Pittsburgh, to be honest.
Well, I saw that first game against Pittsburgh. That was a monstrosity. That's probably how that Bills playoff game would look. And that gets to flipping a coin, playing Russian roulette. Who the hell really knows who's going to win in a 50-50 game like that? So if it's 50-50 against the Steelers, and it's the regular season, there's different performances every week. We're not trying to be unfair about it. But when I view the Ravens in a playoff lens, that's how I view it. Maybe they have a 52% advantage over a team like the Buffalo Bills. And that's where we're at.
Yeah, well, for me, I guess the last thing I'll say, and the reason why I agree with what you just said, is because teams aren't going to lay down and just let you run, just hand the ball off or run with your quarterback all over them. especially in the playoffs. It's just not going to happen. Defenses aren't going to lay down.
Yeah, we've already seen this movie when Kaepernick brought the 49ers to the Super Bowl running read option against a Ravens team that ended up beating them. I mean, we've already seen this movie, and this San Fran team that was able to do it had a literal top 3, top 4 defense that year and tons of playmakers on the outside. Do the Ravens have that type of firepower and artillery to make a run like that? I don't think so.
And I'm glad you brought that up, too, because that made me think of the Carolina Panthers when they faced the Denver Broncos in the Super Bowl. You know, you look at what they did offensively that year, you know, Cam Newton, a bunch of rush yards, everything based off of play action, read option, blew up in their face in the Super Bowl. But I don't think that the Ravens are – I can't go in to say they're that good.
No, that Carolina team had a lot more talent.
Yeah.
And they had pass rushers.
Yes, so it is different, but the formula offensively, just wanted to bring that up too. This unless you can throw the football more consistently, eventually it's going to blow up in your face. It's just a matter of time.
Subscribe, hit the like button, share the videos, hit that like button.